welcome to this week's episode of the World Discord Podcast. My name is Brian Endless. I'm one of your hosts. Who's the other host, Joel?
Never heard of him, but I think his name is Joel Ostrow.
Yes, if you've never heard of him, we can count on none of the rest of us have ever heard of him.
Woo!
So is this episode 5 in our Who Benefits series?
It's episode something in our Who Benefits
4, 5,
series.
6, somewhere around there.
Who's really counting?
Apparently
not us.
Probably no one. In this one, we are talking about another place where money is more important than it probably should be, and that is the prison industrial complex. I want to start, Joel, you're going to do the main talking on this one, but I want to start with some general stats. First, the United States is
He's one of my favorite generals, by the way. General Stats?
General Stats?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really, really should have your own comedy show. Dr. Doom and Gloom and his really bad jokes.
Yeah.
I have some friends I want to introduce you to, and you can have a contest. Anyway.
I'll be here all week.
Yes. So the U.S., this is very important. We are number one in the world. Everybody knows we're number one. USA.
In press freedom?
Press freedom, not quite. We're number one in the industrialized world and worst press freedom, though. So that one's good. We're number one in just a few things. One of them is gross domestic product. We have more money than anybody else coming in. Number two is number of billionaires and centimillionaires. And that's one of those who benefits questions that were there. Number three is my personal favorite. We are number one in the number of human beings in this country who believe that angels walk among us.
It is true.
Always one of my favorites. It's true that angels walk among us, or it's true that more people believe that angels walk among us?
Both.
Oh, good. Okay. I just want to see where you put yourself on that one.
Yeah.
And of course, for this episode, we have the highest incarceration rate among any country that is anywhere near considered a democracy. We confine nearly 2 million people in this country. We only make up about 5%.
And yet you still walk free.
It is amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing, especially after that last episode.
Well, yeah, but that's why, because I don't go to the wrong countries. Anyway, let me continue. We have about 5% of the world's population, and we hold about 20% of the world's prisoners. It is absolutely insane. We've got like 550 prisoners per 100,000 citizens. Next closest in the industrialized world is Canada with 100 out of 100,000 citizens. So, Joel, why is the United States rate so much higher? What is the prison industrial complex? Who is profiting? And more importantly for the audience, who does your hair? It looks really good today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, hair. That's something I haven't had for a while. Yeah.
See that,
is yours real, by the way?
That, by the way, is how to tell a joke. Yes, mine is so real.
Pull it real hard. Let's see what happens.
I lose more hair in every shower than you have on your head. I'm sorry to say it.
No doubt. I just want to be clear. So the what I'm going to be talking about is not so much the prison industrial complex in America. I'm focusing this conversation on the immigration detentions. Because that's where the massive expansion has been with the re-arrival of Trump as the occupant of the White House.
Yeah, so maybe we should call it ICE in the prison industrial complex.
Yeah, or the detention industrial. I don't know. Who cares? All of that is true. Trump promised when he came in, and really Stephen Miller is I don't want to call it brains, is the evil behind this effort.
Evil architect, I believe, is what we use.
Evil architect, yeah. With the goal of deporting 1 million people. They've not achieved in the first year. It seems and all of these figures that you'll be hearing today are estimates because so much of it is shadowy, a lot of it, ironically, undocumented, most of it criminal behavior by the government by any measure of international law. and international conventions, including crimes against humanity. So I'll get that out of the way first. About 400,000 people have been detained in the what do we want to call it for shorthand? The ICE operations. It's more than that.
The alligator Alcatraz complex.
Yeah. That's about 400,000. Those are not deported. Those are total detentions. Many of those have been.
This is insanely ironic in a huge way, because the number one thing, if you were a person in the Republican Party, pre-MAGA and MAGA, the number one thing you complained about is that there were too many people detained and that the detention system was overwhelmed in the United States. And by the way, that was true. The detention system in Texas and New Mexico was totally overwhelmed. It was terrible. And now it's
largely because we had a shortage of immigration judges.
Exactly.
And so huge delays in people getting green cards, getting asylum approval, getting refugee status, all the rest. So 400,000 detained in the first year. It is important to note, given how the United States of America is perceived around the world, given our history, meaning the United States of America when we were democracies, history of pointing out atrocities committed in dictatorships around the world. More than 100,000 U.S. citizen children have been separated from parents who've been detained. Let me say that again. More than 100,000, somewhere between 145,000 and 200,000 have had at least one, most of it is two parents detained and are left without their parents. These are, again, American citizen children. About 11,000 American children. Wait, nope, that's wrong. Sorry, can't find the number. We're going to leave it. Many children have been detained as well, detained separate from their parents. This caused an outrage in Trump's first administration when the numbers were by factors of 10 smaller. We don't hear about this now, but the child separation and lack of documentation about locations, sometimes of the children, more often than not of the parents, is so widespread that it is basically a key part of the operation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, I just did a quick look up. It's about 3,800 children that have been detained and actually brought into these detention facilities.
That sounds quite low. I thought it was more like 30,000.
It is entirely possible. There are 12 different numbers out there. So that
it is really possible.
Yeah. This is something, by the way, folks, we are going to not fight about statistics on these shows. We've done this before, because when you do enough research, you realize that when 4 different sources, you look for 4 different things, you're going to get different statistics at each one of them. And it depends on how they count and what they looked at and things like that. So
and on issues like this, the media standard, when you read an estimated 400,000. I was not an investigative reporter when I worked in journalism, but I talked to a lot of New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times journalists about how they did their jobs. There are reputable sources across the spectrum, and so when you read what's the site that I went to it though? So this is ProPublica. ProPublica is a nonprofit investigative reporting organization that was founded by investigative reporters from some of the top newspapers in the country. When private equity firms bought them out and fired those investigative reporters, they banded together and created a not-for-profit journalism organization. It's donation only. They win multiple Pulitzer Prizes for their investigative reporting every year. I highly encourage everyone to get the ProPublica app, to subscribe and to donate what you can, because that is where a lot of our information comes from, they will get data on whatever aspect of this they want. So if talk about the child separation. So there's a number in here where I got caught. I'd read it wrong the first time. It says at least 11,000 American children have a parent detained. So that means when they say at least, they went to probably 10 different sources: nonprofits, government, advocacy, immigration law firms, activists across the board, people who have reputations that these journalists trust over years and years and years. The lowest number they saw was 11,000. And it was probably something like 11,247. And so they said at least 11,000. Journalists tend to be responsible journalists, extremely conservative on things like this. And so if they say an estimated 400,000, they will take like the 10 sources they have and then do an average of what their numbers are. And then that's how they come up with their estimates. They're not they're not going with one figure, right? These can be trusted, and they tend to be very conservative. Anyway, important to note. Okay, where are these people being held? This is where the who benefits comes in. I firmly believe that this anti-immigration campaign has little or nothing to do with immigration. Has little or nothing to do even with white supremacy. Has little or nothing to do with the economy, because much of this is harming people who were very close to Trump, whether in the agricultural sector or the industrial manufacturing sector, because they're losing labor. But
I'm not going to say really there, because that one's just so blatantly clear. It's not even funny.
So detention funding has gone through the roof, from about $3.4 billion in the pre-Trump budget to over $45 billion just in 2025.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B. They had roughly 107,000 increase in the number of detention beds in these facilities by the end of 2025, with massive plans for expansion into what do we call them? Warehouses, empty warehouses that ICE has purchased. ICE has authorized and awarded to certain companies to run, is the better way to put it.
And I believe those are no bid contracts. Is that correct?
Correct. Most of which will house between 1,000 and 2,000 people for undetermined numbers of stays in shorter processing centers, and then large-scale detention centers that would hold as many as 10,000 people. It is a dizzying array. What is not surprising is where many of these warehouses are located. Quite a few in Texas, quite a few in Arizona, quite a few in Georgia, states that voted red in particular. But there are also facilities in places like New Jersey, in places like Pennsylvania and Michigan, but in districts that were heavily Republican.
Let me step back for a second here, Joel, because I think I want to talk just for a minute about what the norm was before this. And this is important so people can understand how dramatic these changes are. I've done some expert witness work on refugees coming in. I'm very familiar with the refugee system in the United States. Usually a asylum seeker, and we're talking about asylum seekers here in most cases, not quite all cases, asylum seeker comes across the border. If a refugee comes across the border or overstays their welcome and and does not have paperwork, that puts them in a slightly different category than a lot of these people. But many of the people who've been caught up in the system came in and asked for asylum status. They're fleeing someplace with a bad government or bad situation.
Which means they came legally.
Exactly. So
and their status here was legal.
When they cross the border, if they say, I am seeking asylum, they are by definition legal. They are brought
under international law and U.S.
and
law.
U.S. law. Yep. They are brought before a judge. The judge makes a quick determination if they have a plausible case. And this is important, the number one thing the judge does is the judge and their staff check to see if the person has violated laws.
Correct.
In particular, if they've been to the U.S. and didn't leave or committed crimes in the U.S. If a judge finds that they don't have status to stay, the judge just kicks them out of the country.
They get deported immediately.
Exactly. They are sent back and across the border. End of story. No question.
Which is why minuscule percentage of the 400,000 estimates are about 3% of the 400,000 have been convicted of crimes.
Right.
And only about 10% have realistic charges that are criminal charges, meaning not misdemeanor or administrative, lodged against them.
Correct.
So despite the promises that it was the worst of the worst, the people being rounded up are not criminals.
Right. And that's important too. Crossing the border is not a criminal act. It is a civil liability. It is not a criminal act to cross the U.S. border.
And when you enter the immigration system, you then become legal.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how you cross the border. If once you enter the system, meaning the government knows where you are, that's why these people are being rounded up. You show up for your check-ins before a judge or your hearings, you're in compliance with the law.
100%. I have worked on over a dozen cases as an expert witness of asylum seekers. The average has been in the country 4 or 5 years waiting through the legal process.
For the hearing.
They are legal.
That's not their fault.
No, not at all. They're
our fault.
Asylum seekers. The judge determines that they can stay. They are then sent to live with friends or relatives, and they're usually sent off to another state. And they are sent to a place where, if it's a Somali, as an example, there's a big Somali community in Minnesota. There are big Mexican communities, and Puerto Rico is part of the U.S., but Mexican communities, other Latin American communities in Chicago and other places. They're sent to live with friends and relatives. They get jobs. They go to school. They rent apartments. They contribute to the economy. They are statistically good, upstanding citizens who break less laws than native-born American citizens.
Correct.
On average. And they're here 4, 5, 6, 7 years until their asylum process is done. And then the final asylum judge either says, yes, you get asylum and you can stay, or no, and you're kicked out of the country.
And they are taxpayers. Estimates are that in 2025, 26, I forget which year, it's either 25 or 26, that the United States of America will have robbed itself of $500 billion, $500 billion in tax revenue from migrants in this, immigrants in this country.
And the original problem before the current administration, what we used to talk about, we said at the beginning, people would come into Texas and there wasn't enough administrative staff. There weren't enough judges and lawyers and administrators. So there was a backlog. And what we saw were detention camps in Texas that were overloaded because those people should have had their hearing and then gone off to live a life in another state as they were in the legal process. Instead, they were getting stuck too long without a hearing. Too many people in detention centers was our problem. When Donald Trump took office. That was the key problem. So please continue.
Yeah. So who is benefiting from this in particular? And this really, really surprised me. It seems that there are 3 main companies, all huge, that dominated the private prison system before Trump, or at least before this incarnation of Trump. And a couple of them have expanded into the transportation and aviation aspect of this for the actual deportations of people that we are sending out of the country. One thing, 2025 was, I think I briefly mentioned, the first year in several decades where the United States experienced net negative immigration. This people self-deporting, those figured that 400,000 has nothing to do with, it does not count for the people who have voluntarily left because they don't want to end up in one of these concentration camps. And then also border crossings into this country are even lower than they were during the Biden years, which, despite the disinformation, were the lowest they had been in many, many decades.
And people don't realize that immigration is one of our greatest strengths.
Yep.
We get our significant amounts of population growth, and people who come in start usually taking lower level jobs and then build their way up over generations.
Well, economic growth
other
too,
jobs
Brian.
and being the core of communities.
If you follow a graph, curves of GDP up and down, GDP growth always tracks with immigration. When immigration goes up, gross domestic product goes up. We have a more productive economy, more wealth generation, larger middle class. When immigration goes down, all that falls. But that is the objective of this administration, which is economic stratification and enrichment of a few. So
you mean the Statue of Liberty was right about the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to be free being good for us?
No, that's all French propaganda.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay. So 3 main companies. They have names you have never heard of, and the third one I was unable to get really any significant information about, which is quite worrisome. So I'm organizing this by first an overview of the companies and their connections to the current regime. The first one is called Core Civic. Brian, have you ever heard of Core Civic?
I have now heard of them a couple of times in the news, but I would have no idea what they are.
It's capital C-O-R-E, capital C-I-V-I-C, no space in between.
Okay.
How much do you think they donated?
Would that be a good investment?
Probably. It depends on how you define good.
And moral.
Yeah. Shocker here. They donated $500,000.
$500,000's not much.
No, but this was just to the inauguration.
Oh, remember, yeah, no, $500,000 to the inauguration is a good amount of money.
That was the number that Trump gave to companies if they wanted to be "quote unquote" in. Core Civic gave $500,000 to the inauguration, several million to the campaign directly, and to super PACs tied to the to Republican Trump and RNC numbers. $785,000. This is just what has been that you can document through open source reporting, data gathering. $785,000 to the Trump campaign and to outside groups, super PACs, linked to the Trump campaign, just the Trump campaign. I would say that's a large number.
I would agree.
I'm glad you would agree. Their chief executive is named Damon. Who's the most famous Damon that you know of as a first name? Oh no, it was Damien, the one from
Damien from the
Omen,
the son of the devil. Yeah, I was going to say
yes, from the Omen.
The most famous
I wish this guy's name was Damien.
Is a Jesuit named Father Damon, but
well, he's Damon Heininger or Hinninger. I don't care how you pronounce it because he's an asshat. He contributed $300,000 to a fundraising committee early on in the Trump campaign. $300,000 just to the committee to do the fundraising for Trump and the RNC. And then if you add the various other secondary level executives of Core Civic, we're talking another several $100,000 to Trump affiliated PACs. I was able to cobble together about $400,000. Hinninger himself, in the days after the election, as many of these companies, both in this episode that we've named and in other episodes that we are talking about in this series, almost all of them held board meetings within 10 days after the election in 2024. This leaked out. Hinninger said, "quote unquote, this is truly one of the most exciting periods in my career with the company, Core Civic." And their stock jumped 30% in the 30 days after the election. I should note that their stock no doubt jumped, although we can't track this, Brian. Who do you think bought those shares in addition to company executives? Who else would have been among
Okay, so if it follows the lines of our recent series on who benefits, it would be one of two groups. It would either be the Trump family or the Koch
ding, ding,
brothers.
ding, ding.
Both?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So ICE detentions were 40% of the business value of Core Civic prior to Trump 2, meaning they were involved in the racist, modern slavery campaign of imprisoning Black people and other people of color, but primarily African Americans. But now, what would you say the percentage is of their net revenue?
I have no idea, so I'm just going to let you tell us.
65%.
Wow.
That's a
Those
big
revenues have gone up.
change in focus for any company, right? This was as of December 2020. So we're talking 12 months. In 1 year, this corporation has completely shifted. Let's be clear. Let me make this perfectly clear. They're still in the business of imprisoning African Americans, right?
And still making money off that.
But now they also have these, and I really insist on calling them not detention centers. I want to call them what they are. They are concentration camps.
Yeah.
Now, on top of this, their employees.
By the way, I want to be really clear on concentration camps for a minute, because I hate it when people make Nazi parallels on these things.
Correct.
This one, though, is, what do you call it when the government takes people off the street with no due process, with no real selection process other than they think that person looks like a criminal?
No charges.
No charges. Throws them.
Nobody knows where they're going.
They don't know where they're going. They have no access to lawyers. That is a concentration camp.
And then they feed them. They keep them in grotesquely overcrowded pens. Barely feed them. Unsanitary conditions where there are disease and people are dying left and right. We'll get to that. Oh, I lost my data on that, but maybe we can find it. The employees of Core Civic, what we're talking about, are people who work in these facilities, either in security or maintenance or administration, donated tens of millions of dollars. We don't know the number, but again, it's in the tens of millions to MAGA campaigns and organizations. These companies all have lobbyists, as do major corporations like Exxon. They have their, our last episode was on the fossil fuel industry. There are trade associations, industry associations that do lobbying for the fossil fuel industry, but companies, large ones like Exxon, will also, while they are a part of that and fund that, also have their own lobbyists. This industry, as far as I can tell, does not have an industry level lobbyist group, or trade group is for some reason we call them in this country. They do their own lobbying. What percentage of their lobbyists held government positions under Trump, would you say?
Oh, that's got to be 20%?
60%. 6 in 10 of Core Civic's lobbyists in 2024 now hold government positions under Trump.
Whoa.
They work at, where do you think they work?
In the Department of Prisons?
No.
Corrections? ICE?
No.
Not Homeland Security?
Yes, and ICE and the Department of Injustice.
Of course.
Which used to be called the Department of Justice.
Right.
I just
made that an official name now? Does the secretary call themselves the Secretary of Injustice?
He should.
Okay.
And then this guy, David Penn Burns, who was, I believe, the number 2 at Core Civic, is a deputy. I can't remember if he's in the I think he's in the FBI. He's a deputy director. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
CoreCivic has paid over $4.5 million for dozens of mistreatment complaints, including how many people died in its Tennessee prisons in 2024 that has allowed them to gain such prominence in the Trump administration. Just in Tennessee prisons in 2024, 22 deaths.
Wow.
I would say that's a lot. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need to know how many people were imprisoned in their Tennessee prisons. If 22 people are dying, that's at least 21 too many. Like, there's probably one asshole who deserved it. But, you know, or like, you know, maybe had a heart attack or cancer, was like super old, like, but not 22. I would say that's a lot.
Right.
So after all that, are you going to invest in CoreCivic? Are you going to apply for a job there?
I don't think so. It's such a hard moral choice, but I'll say no.
But people do so well from there.
They do.
You'd make more than you would at Loyola.
Well, yeah, but that's no. That's not very
low bar.
Yeah. College professors are by definition exploited. So
well, this other company, the second, well, should we move on to company number 2?
we can move on. Yeah. By the way, I was going to mention, just when it comes to lobbying, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, has always been a big player with prisons, and they are still a big player with these groups in prisons. I don't know if they're the big player or the central group, but they're one of the primary groups that puts out lobbying and strategies that help the prison industrial complex, including these companies.
While I'm talking about group number 2, can you maybe quickly Google the number of, like, what the estimated number is of deaths in detention centers in the first year of the Trump administration?
I can.
Now, the second major corporation for sure you have heard of, it's called Geo Group. You know about Geo Group, of course, don't you? You've never heard of Geo Group, have you?
Geo Group. What's a Geo Group?
It's a group that does geo stuff. Like CoreCivic, talk about disinformation for the one. But Geo Group
or geothermal energy, or
let's just fucking not name us in any way, shape, or form connected to what we do.
Please tell us about it.
They are not the third, not the fourth, not the second. They are the first corporation that maxed out in contributions to the Trump campaign in 2024. Which is interesting. But they use a subsidiary to give an additional half a million to a pro-Trump super PAC. That sounds like fun, yeah? They use a subsidiary, don't know what the name of that subsidiary is. The report that I read didn't name it. So maybe they lacked confidence, I don't know, or maybe they don't exist, or maybe they were scared.
Interesting.
Geo Group employees and spent $3.7 million on MAGA campaigns. This one we're able to break down a little more. $1 million to Trump's Make America Great Again super PAC. $775,000 to the Republican Congressional Leadership Fund. $500,000 to the Senate Leadership Fund. And Geo Acquisition 2 Inc., another subsidiary, gave $1 million to the MAGA fund.
Okay.
That's pretty cool, yeah?
Just a little bit of money.
And they just did it out of principle, you know?
Oh,
they
of
just
course.
really concerned about policy.
They're patriotic. Come on.
Yeah. Their founder's name, again, I'm sure you know this name, George Zoley. Never heard of him, right?
George Zoley, I think I golfed with him recently. And
their CEO has a really horrible first name.
What's that?
Brian. Brian Evans.
Oh, he even has a similar last name. How interesting.
They each maxed out on contributions to Trump's Save America fundraising committee. But this is what's much more interesting. Zoley spent over $3 million to buy 250,000 new shares of his company at an average price of $12.28 within days after the election.
It's amazing how these things seem to happen right next to each other.
their value of each one of those shares has moved over by a decimal. So he's made out like a little bit of a bandit.
Yep.
Just on that.
Yep.
Oh, and guess what they did 4 days after the election, Brian?
Board meeting?
They held a board meeting. Yeah.
Excellent.
And do you have any idea who might have spoken at this board meeting?
Stephen Miller?
No, their founder and executive chairman, not the CEO. He's like the shadowy guy, standing. He's Mao. Quote, "This is to us an unprecedented opportunity." Sure was, Sherlock.
Yep.
Do you know how much their stock has risen in their last year? Oh, I think I already told you.
60%?
No, moved over by a decimal.
Oh, 600%?
Now,
by the way, I have that number. I had that number you asked for, and per our discussion, numbers are fluid, and I'm just looking at one internet source here. So, 32 deaths nationwide in ICE custody in 2025, and that surpassed the previous high, which was 24 deaths in 2004. But this is just
32
one statistic. Yeah, and you had 22 in Tennessee.
No, 22. That was in the private prisons. That wasn't ICE.
Okay. I'm just looking at ICE.
I thought the number for ICE detention centers was in the hundreds.
It might be. These might just be in ICE custody is what I'm looking at. So let me look and see if it's in ICE detention centers, if I can find that.
Yeah, that's quickly. A different thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So Geo Group, before the 2025, had about 30%, 70% of its facilities were private prisons, about 30% were ICE facilities. That has now flipped. 75% of their facilities are ICE and 35% are private prisons, but they have not reduced the numbers of private prisons or those incarcerated in those private prisons. So that is how much their business has expanded. And remember, this is the second largest of these private incarceration corporations, because I think that's what we need to call them, because they do both the prisons and the detentions now.
Right.
What'd you find there? Anything interesting?
So hang on a second. I'm looking at the key numbers here. I think the key numbers, I'm seeing all sorts of different numbers for exact counts, but a key here is that 5.6 people per 10,000 detainees died in custody.
5 per 10,000, and there's 400,000 detained.
Yep.
So multiply 5 by 40.
Right.
That's about 200.
200,
but it was 5.6, so probably close to 300.
Yep.
Yeah. And let's be clear. Let me make this perfectly clear. Many of those are American citizens.
Right. Absolutely. American citizens, and the vast majority have no criminal record.
No criminal record.
Ever. None.
So even if we stick by maybe 3% with criminal charges, let's assume wrongly that those were convicted. We're only talking like 9 people of the 300 plus were criminal. And even so, that doesn't mean they should die, because criminals are really big word. 3% facing criminal charges, that does not mean violent crimes.
By the way, no one in prison should die because they haven't got the death penalty. Unless they're given the death penalty and then the state kills them, no one should die in prison.
They still shouldn't die while in prison. But like some others, there are some people I don't have a problem if they die in prison.
You're mean.
Yeah, I'm mean, but like child rapists, like fuck around and find out. Okay.
I kind of want them to live a long time and be tortured, but that's a different thing.
Well, but we could have a discussion about that, but I don't think that fits into this episode.
We can agree to disagree.
Yeah. Or agree to agree, like,
Yeah.
Okay, so Geo Group spent $70 million in their expansion of ICE detention facilities after the election. Just like we're talking a short amount of time here, folks. Guess how much additional revenue that investment generated?
Let's see. I'm going to go with over $1 billion.
It was 700 million by November of 2025. So probably over $1 billion now.
Yep. Yeah, more than 10 times.
Who's paying this?
The taxpayers of the United States of America?
Yes, indeed.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. But fortunately, unlike Geo Group, unlike Core Civic, oops, no, I'm wrong. I think I mentioned, oh no, I did not mention this guy. David Venturella, he's a former CEO at Geo Group. He was the acting director of ICE right after the inauguration. Did you know that?
You're saying someone from one of these groups that's making a profit off of putting people in jail, putting detainees in jail, was leading the government organization that is responsible for putting the detainees in jail.
David Venturella.
I thought my explanation was better than yours, but I guess not.
Who's your favorite attorney general in U.S. history?
My favorite attorney general, Edwin Meese.
Okay, now who's your real favorite attorney general? Who's your favorite female attorney general in U.S.
My
history?
favorite attorney general is Edmund Meese because he's the guy who said,
"Yeah, I know,
we're investigating them. If they weren't, we would. Excuse me. Of course they're guilty. Why would we be investigating them if they weren't guilty?"
He was probably much more ethically pure and qualified to be attorney general than the one I'm thinking of. Who's your favorite blonde female attorney general in U.S. history?
Okay, here's the problem. I'm totally blanking on her name right now.
Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi. Thank you very much.
Guess what she was doing in 2023 and 2024?
All I can, she was an attorney general of a state arresting people.
And also, how this is true, lobbied for Geo Group.
Of course.
That's kind of fun.
The ties are amazing.
Guess what? So Geo Group has 13 registered lobbyists with the federal government before January 21st of 2025, 13 of them. Guess how many of them had served in government positions under Trump of the 13?
13?
No, come on, let's be reasonable. 14.
12.
No, 10. 10. 10. Like, we're talking serious revolving door.
Yeah. Which is a classic sign of corruption. That's what corrupt administrations do.
Let's name some of these.
I hope you don't expect me to guess those.
Okay. Some of them you might have heard of, though. Geo Group executive links to ICE. So these are Geo executives. Lindsay Korn is one. She served as a trial attorney with the Department of Justice and a senior advisor to the chief immigration judge at DOJ.
Mm-hmm.
Julie Wood is a former ICE head who's been on Geo's board since 2018. Matthew Albence, I think of that name's familiar. Albence. He served in a variety of ICE positions before joining Geo Group in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
A few days before the 2024 election, the ICE official in charge of detentions. Okay, I'm going to say this again. A few days before the 2024 presidential election, we knew what the outcome was going to be at that point.
Uh-huh.
The ICE official who headed the detentions operations for ICE, Daniel, he's got a great last name, Brian, Bible, left to become the executive vice president at Geo Group, as did Daniel Ragsdale, who was the chief operating officer for ICE for the detentions operations who joined GEO in 2017 and remains there.
There seem like
as an
a lot of
executive vice president.
synergies, to use the corporate word, between the leadership of ICE and GEO Group.
Remember our friend Mr. Holman? What was his first name?
Todd?
Big bald guy at ICE? Yeah. He was a GEO consultant.
Mention
January 20th of 2025.
Of course.
So, no real ties.
No.
The third company is called MTC. I couldn't find out any of the information like this about MTC. It seems smaller, although some say it's the biggest. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations, millions in contracts, and basically that's all I got for you.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay, I want to run through this real quick. 2025, ICE posted calls for contract proposals worth, as I mentioned before, $45 billion in new detention facilities. CoreCivic and GEO Group submitted proposals for the facilities in Texas, in particular Arizona, a couple in California and Pennsylvania, and they received them. Non-competitive bids. Department of Homeland Security the prior year allocated $3 billion to ICE's custody operations. So increase of by a decimal, moving over $3 billion to $45 billion. GEO Group has a 15-year contract with ICE for 1,000 beds in New Jersey, which will add $60 million to its revenues. I could go on, but I don't know that really need to. There's one contract in Texas that's expected to generate $80 million this year. Similarly, CoreCivic has 5-year contracts for facilities in Texas. Revenues close to $200 million for the first year. It goes on and on. Yeah.
So do we have more direct connections to Trump, to Stephen Miller, to people like that? What are those?
Yeah. In a sector that I mentioned briefly at the beginning, CSI Aviation, which of course we've all heard of. No. I
need to remember we're doing a podcast and everybody doesn't watch videos. So when I shake my head no, I should be saying no at the same time, shouldn't I?
You should.
Okay, go ahead.
Especially given, never mind. I was going to comment on you and I having faces for radio. So
speak for yourself.
CSI Aviation has contracts worth just shy of $1 billion for transport of these deportees under this ICE detention campaign.
Almost always illegal transport, sometimes done
Correct.
After a judge's order to not transport the people.
There's one called MVM Inc., which moves unaccompanied migrant children and families. They received $1.3 billion.
That's special.
Guess what? Guess who the company director is?
Who's the company director?
Deborah Meistus, who I'd never heard of. But guess what she's most known for?
Works for ICE?
First word is fake. She was a fake elector.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going. I'm glad you went to fake elector.
In Georgia. Yeah.
Excellent.
And then the CSO CEO and his daughter and his wife, who are all listed as corporate directors, each gave $840,000 to Trump-aligned PACs.
Yep.
And at one of their own airport hangars, held a campaign rally for Trump in very late October 2024.
Of course.
Pretty cool.
So there's no connections at all.
I didn't even mention the connections of Palantir to these transportation companies. But I don't like talking about Peter Thiel because he's an MFer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything in conclusion here to wrap us up on just how bad all of this is?
We know for a fact that Donald Jr. and Eric, in the days after the election, and possibly before, made massive investments into CoreCivic and GEO Group, but we don't know the value of those because they are not disclosed.
Right.
I wonder if Jared and them or perhaps what's the guy's name who poses as Jared's partner in diplomatic negotiation because he
Witkoff.
doesn't Witkoff, both real estate. I wonder to what extent their real estate holdings are connected to
Oh,
these detention
all those
facilities. It's
purchases of
something
warehouses. Interesting.
I was not able to find, but it's hard for me to believe they aren't at least investing in
Yep.
those, or that those warehouses that they didn't buy them up and then sell them at a higher, or leasing them
Right.
out or whatever. And fortunately, I'm not paying for any of this with my taxes.
No, not at all.
No.
All right then. Yeah, so what you have put together and what we have put together here is just one piece of it. This is a piece that particularly pisses me off.
Yeah.
In terms of the prison industrial complex and ICE combining together here, because a lot of innocent human beings, or at least in human beings who have not done criminal things, including American citizens, are being hurt and in some cases killed by it.
Yeah.
And even more so than companies just making profit, although anytime we talk about military industrial complex, massive numbers of people being killed, these are people, our neighbors, being killed next door.
Correct.
And it is just absolutely horrific what's being done in our names here.
Absolutely is. And what is interesting is, and I think one reason the operation is increasingly controversial, is the negative impact that that is taking place on other people very close to Trump, who donated hundreds of millions of dollars collectively to these super PACs and the campaigns, because their operations, many of them in large part, relied on people who are no longer able to work.
Oh, it is
For
destroying
low wages, by the way.
farms. One of the interesting things, I haven't seen the stat, in the first year was estimated that a pretty high percentage of family farms in Nebraska were going to go away. I need to look that one up and see how many actually went away just in the first year, because they had labor issues and then tariffs. And
but even the large corporate farms regularly use migrant labor,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And that's going to show up. That is an unknown amount, but a factor in the inflation that is hurting all of us, because
it doesn't just cut into their profits.
You get product scarcity, prices go up.
Yeah, inflates the cost of goods. Absolutely. Yep. This all comes back to us in multiple ways, multiple bad ways.
What's the solution, Brian?
Yes, please. What is the solution? You get put on
that's the slogan. What's the solution?
Yep.
The revolution.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I would prefer a nonviolent revolution where Joel doesn't know if that's possible.
Nope.
But we need to dramatically change the system. This doesn't happen with small time fixes. Yes, a new president can come in and create new executive orders, but this has created decades worth of problems. And this is still big companies winning, and they are winning because they use their money to control our politics.
What has changed, by the way, and you're right, and that is why in the last episode towards the end I said that this, we can't fix this stuff within system. We need a change of the system.
Right.
What has changed is scale. What has changed is the open corruption.
Blatantness, yeah, absolutely.
But what has people seem to have forgotten was under President Hope and Change, there was a lot of outrage over the brutality of the immigration crackdown that happened under Barack Obama. My brother, Len, was an attorney out in Portland. And at the beginning of these ICE raids, said that the same stuff was happening under Obama. People were being seized. They were being disappeared to these holding facilities. Nobody knew where they were. Lawyers could not find them or access them, and people sent out of the country without due process. So this has all been going on, but there isn't evidence that, what's his daughter's name?
Ivanka?
No, Obama's. Is it like
Oh,
Malia?
yes, exactly.
I don't think she was
The two
profiting
daughters are
off of this.
profiting. Yeah, no,
I don't think she was
exactly.
profiting off of it.
I will say there's one difference, and I completely agree. Their system has been bad under Democrats and Republicans, especially Obama. The one difference right now is it is now so blatant that we're noticing. And
Oh,
I don't know that that's going to make change happen, but it is important that the people are noticing this.
differences in scale can become differences in kind. This is a
Yeah.
difference in kind, and
Yeah.
this is, and yes, why was Obama doing that? Who was getting the contracts? Who was doing it? It was people who were also donating to Democrats. There's no doubt that there was finance, but this corruption is now the system.
Yeah.
There was always corruption in Russia, and before that, the Soviet Union. Putin's Russia is corruption. Trump's America is corruption.
I think the importance of this episode,
there is no justice.
Yeah, the importance of this episode is it takes us beyond just the No Kings movement that looks at the detentions and looks at what happens after the detentions and the money behind it too. So all of that's important.
Correct.
All right, you get the last word.
The last word. Bye.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, David, for producing. Thanks, Joel, for all the handy stats today. And we will see you all soon. Have a good one.
Spread the word, folks. Bye.